The year was 1914, and the place was in a village in what is now Slovakia. Baptist minister Reverend Norbert Capek one day saw the local police commissioner walking up to his home. What could it be, he thought. The commissioner was a friend of his. Well, the commissioner said, I have seen your name on a blacklist. Government officials do not like something that you wrote in your magazine, and you are going to be arrested and sent to prison. You better get out of the country as soon as you can. Well, he did that with his wife, Marie, and their 8 kids. They hustled off to New York City, where he got a position as minister in a Baptist church. But he didn't talk very much about salvation in a world to come. He talked more about salvation in this world, more about peace and justice now. And he didn't think of Jesus as the second person of the Holy Trinity, but as a prophet. Well, before too long, he was brought up on heresy charges. Some people wanted to get him out of the Baptist ministry. Well, he managed to squeak through on that. They didn't cast him out. They didn't defrock him, but they just put him in another church over in Newark. And one day, his wife, Marie, was singing at a wedding in that Newark church, and she had a stroke. And she died right there while she was singing her solo, leaving him with 8 kids to raise all alone. But within a year, he had married Maya, a woman from his native land who worked in the Slovak department of the New York Public Library. He continued to feel uncomfortable within the confines of Baptist theology, and he decided to leave that denomination. And as I recall, he got work as a journalist. But he and Maya wanted a religious education for their kids, and they looked around and they finally determined the best place was at the Unitarian Church of East Orange, New Jersey. Isn't that interesting? And the minister of that church knew Thomas Masaryk, the new president of Czechoslovakia, which was newly independent, of course, after the First World War and the destruction of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Well, this minister said to Norbert, he said, well, why don't you contact Dr. Frederick May Elliott, president of the American Unitarian Association, and ask if the denomination will be willing to sponsor you and Maya to go to Prague and start a Unitarian church. And he did just that. And the American Unitarian Church decided to do that, to start a church in Prague. And they started in 1921 with just 40 members, but within a few years, it had grown to be the largest Unitarian church in the world with over 5,000 members. Can you imagine that? And they bought their building. It was, and still is, on Karlova Street between Charles Bridge and the town square. And I was there a few years back, and I was pleased to be able to visit the church, and the minister, current minister, not the current minister, but the minister at the time, showed me around the place. It was a real honor, a pleasure to be in Norbert Capek's church. Now, I've been told that it's not good to, mess up a sermon by putting in extraneous things that really don't fit. But I'm so interested in something I want to share with you. I'm going to do this anyway, okay? An interesting thing about Charles Bridge. Now, King Charles built this bridge across the Vltava River in 1357 in order to join the old city and the new city. And he was very interested in numerology and sort of the magic of numbers. And he thought that there should be symmetry in the date of this building, at starting this building, of this bridge, and that this would bode well for its future. And so that's why he started the building on July 9th, 1537 at 5:31 in the morning, because this was symmetrical. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. Isn't that neat? And you have to remember, though, of course, in European notation, the day of the month comes before the month. So now, if you ever want to impress people, or you happen to end up on Jeopardy or whatever, you can always remember 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. So back to the main business at hand. Now, this congregation that he founded drew on people from many different backgrounds, from Catholics and Protestants and Jews, and folks who had no religious connection, but were drawn to this church, which was called the Free Religious Unitarian Society. And so he felt it necessary on their final service before their summer break in 1923 to come up with a ceremony that would be a communion that would bind them together and celebrate their community. And, you know, established religious communions from other traditions just wouldn't do it because of their great diversity. And but he came up with this idea, which I think was brilliant. He asked people to bring a flower of their choice, either from their own gardens or from fields or roadside. And then when they arrived at church, a large vase stood waiting in the vestibule, attended by the young people of the congregation, who put them into a pleasing bouquet. And then at some point in the service, they brought it in, and he had a ceremony of dedication of these flowers. And then he asked people to come and to take a flower other than they had brought, with the bouquet representing the beauty of their relationships and their commitments, and then taking a flower other than what they had brought to signify how we give and receive in a religious community. And we don't always know from whom we're receiving or to whom we are giving. Well, the ceremony was a hit, and it continues to be a hit today around the world, even among non-Unitarian Universalist congregations. I took part in a wonderful celebration for the International Association for Religious Freedom, which is composed of over 50 interreligious liberal organizations from many different traditions, back in 1984 in Tokyo at the Rishikosekai Buddhist Temple. And it was a wonderful experience to take part in a flower communion there. It was brought to the US by Maya in 1940, who was visiting here. She introduced it to our congregation in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and now it is, I would say, celebrated every year throughout our denomination to a very, very wide degree. Unfortunately, Norbert was arrested in Prague. There had been Nazi spies in the congregation who had taken notes on his sermons and turned him into the government authorities, that he was speaking things that were heretical in terms of the Nazi perspective. He also was found to be listening to foreign broadcasts. He was arrested and brought to Dachau, where he died in 1942. He was part of some medical experiments that killed him. But of course, his tradition lives on in that wonderful church in Prague and in the flower communion, which he has bequeathed to us. I've read that even in Dachau, they had a ceremony of flower communion, and he was very much of a ministerial presence to people in Dachau. But Capek drew upon a very, very, what you would say, a precious symbol, didn't he, with a flower. By colleague, David Rankin, once wrote, "What is a flower? It's a memorial to those who have died. It is a token of love and affection. It is a symbol of birth and renewal. It is an emblem of beauty and joy. It is a sign of hope and confidence. But there is more than words can explain, a purity, a mystery, a heavenly quality that engenders only awe and silence. Flowers are indicative of the relationship we have to all of being." And of course, it speaks to the great diversity of people, with all the different colors and shapes, representing the vast differences in people, differences in temperament and sexual orientation and goals and aspirations, differences in religious belief and sentiments. And that's what I appreciate so much about our Unitarian Universalist tradition. We draw on people who come from many different traditions, the mystical traditions, prophetic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, world religions, such as Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam, among others, nature-based religions, and humanist traditions. And I've known people from each of these traditions in each of my congregations over the past 45 years. And I think this is really our distinctive that is brought out, I think, so much in the bouquet of the flowers during flower communion. I like one of the stories told by the UU minister, Robert Fulgham. I don't remember which of his books I read this in, but he tells of a time in his congregation in Washington, he was setting up a game for children in the congregations. And he said to the kids, "Now, I want the giants over here on this side of the room, over to my left, and and the dwarfs to my right, and the wizards right in the center. So take your place." Well, a young girl tugged at his pant leg, and she said, "Reverend Fulgham, where do I go? I'm a mermaid." "Well," he said, "unfortunately, there are no mermaids in this game. You have to choose one of the others." "Well, I can't really choose because I'm a mermaid." So Fulgham made a place for mermaids. And that's what our traditions have been doing now for centuries. We even find a place for mermaids again and again and again, while being true to our core principles. Now, I think the flower communion ceremony recognizes the diversity in gifts that we have as well, how we contribute. First, of course, according to our financial abilities to keep things going within the congregation, but all of the ways that we run on volunteer efforts, sharing our gifts with each other. Now, we recognize in this communion ceremony everyone who has given of themselves and time and talent to enrich and beautify the whole congregation. I continue to believe in my heart of hearts that each of us has a gift to offer in creating a place where, in the words of Margaret Atchley, we have a place where joys are celebrated, where griefs are comforted, where reason and learning are honored, where talents are nurtured, where concerns are shared, where friendships are deepened, where love of beauty is experienced and encouraged, where serving of others inside and outside our congregation is fostered in order to have a more peaceful and just world, and really importantly, where laughter is encouraged. So, as part of this service, we would like to thank all of the groups who have contributed so much to our congregational community over the past year. And our readers and helping me do this are all members of our worship committee. First will be Sharon Scholl, then Penny Reed, then Jeff Funderburg, and then Hope Clayton. So Sharon.
Although the physical church has been closed to in-person services, we have continued to provide beautiful services via Zoom and Facebook. This has been made possible by a huge team of people working together, including our tech team and tech staff, our part-time ministers and guest speakers, worship committee members, music committee members, and of course, all of you who join us each week. The electric connection among members in our Zoom coffee rooms after services has allowed us to connect personally. And this has all been quite an achievement when you think about the disasters of the year. The church board has continued to guide us through this challenging time due to the panic and pandemic. They have had so many extra issues to work through, and they deserve our deep gratitude.
Our staff, including our office manager, bookkeeper, tech coordinator, and publications director, have faithfully kept us functional during this shutdown phase. The caring committee has reached out to check on people by telephone, providing a sense of connection and community, and an offer to help with practical and emotional needs. This committee has also been helping people with transportation needs and home visits. What a service they provide to meet the practical and emotional needs of our church community.
The new normal team has been monitoring the progression of COVID and is currently searching for a fully inclusive plus hybrid way to begin opening the church facility for in-person services. This has been no small task, and this has involved input from our tech people and buildings and grounds people. Speaking of buildings and grounds, the Building and Grounds Committee, and especially one dedicated member of this committee, you know who you are, has monitored and overseen the safety and maintenance of our church facility and grounds all year during this shutdown. The Campus Renewal Committee and Keepers of the Church also contribute guidance there. We're so grateful for their diligence and hard work.
We have seen the creation of excellent materials for UU 101 by adult religious education committee members. New member information sign-up documents are updated and are now available on our UUCJ website so that people can access these important materials remotely. We have also provided service to our community, the environment, and the greater world community through participation in iCare, special collections, the Right Relations Committee, support for Arlington Community Services through the Community Garden and member donations, the Green Sanctuary Committee, Partner Church Committee, and the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee.
Financial support for our church by the amazing Service Auction Fundraising Committee. Boy, did they do a good job. And of course, our donors and buyers, as well as the hard work of the Finance Committee, the UUCJ Foundation, and the mission funding volunteers. And especially those who pledged to support the UUCJ mission through their financial contributions.
The capital campaign has continued to move forward with planning major improvements that are essential to our campus facilities and the future of UUCJ.
We have seen a blossoming of opportunities for people to stay connected during this time of physical separation. So many special groups have been meeting electronically. The UUCJ Women of All Ages, the Monday Book Club, Second Tuesday Book Club, Healthy Eating, Soul Matters small groups in Jacksonville and Fernandina Beach, Playing with Ideas, Spiritual Studies, and two of our members coordinated this year's smaller but lovely Olino gathering. And Reverend Paul's Zoom classes, UU History, UU Then and Now, Building Your Own Theology, have promoted community and spiritual development.
And our Ministerial Search Committee has been diligently searching for a full-time minister to step in after Reverend Paul's tenure is over. This has been a huge responsibility that seems to have brought fruition to our search. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
Well, I want to thank Sharon and Penny and Jeff and Hope for your participation here. And I want to say as well how impressed I am with what a year this has been since I joined you last October. Successful in so many different ways amidst the pandemic. And I'm so pleased that our ministerial search committee has concluded its negotiations with my successor. And that, of course, was one of the big goals, to be able to call a full-time minister, to hire a full-time minister for starting in the fall. So thank you all for your encouragement and support of our shared ministry this past year. Whenever Dr. Capek conducted his flower communion in Prague, he would say these words as he consecrated the flowers. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask your blessing on these messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as a most precious gift. And may we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all are needed. And now we will have the sharing of photos of members and friends with their flowers that have been provided to us, to the accompaniment of the Czech hymn, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, which was written by Norbert Capek and sung by David Rowe, music director of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Iowa City.
Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, where are you? In the sky song, in the forest sounds your cry. What to give you, what to call you, what am I? Many drops are in the ocean deep and wide. Sunlight bounces off the ripples to the sky. What to give you, what to call you, who am I am empty, time flies from me, what is time? Dreams eternal, fears infernal haunt my heart. What to give you, what to call you, oh my God. Mother Spirit, Father Spirit, take our hearts, take our breath and let our voices sing our parts. Take our hands and let us work to shape our art.
In closing this part of the ceremony, I want to share with you the words that Dr. Capek wrote, reflecting his life and the state of the spirit just before he died at Dachau. It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. Oh, blow ye evil winds into my body's fire. My soul, you'll never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times or fallen in the fight and everything would seem worthless, I have lived amidst eternity. Be grateful, my soul. My life was worth living. Amen.